There's an echo in the canyon, a reflection on the sound. When I'm really looking, I can hear you all around.
Welcome, welcome, and welcome. We're so glad to be back. And here we are. And I'm sitting here with an instant friend, and it gets as deep as it goes in that moment, Sandra Yannone. Or do you add the E?
No, you've got it precisely.
Dr. Sandra Yannone. I'm very impressed. Credentials do count. And we're in the same trade, having fun.
That's it. It's all about the fun, right?
And we're going to blow
We're going to
some bubbles
demonstrate
first
that.
to sort of symbolically say, you know, a poem may be.
It's about the breath, Frank, and I think the bubbles help with the breath.
It is about the breath, and it's the evanescence, too, of poetry, because once it's out, it can diaphanize. It can, oh, your bubbles are so beautiful. Oh, these are, imagine for a moment, poems.
Just going out into the world.
Going out into the world.
Iridescent.
Iridescent, full of love and passion. I'm doing it as a dinosaur would. But it's about the breath.
It's a gentleness. It's more gentle than we perceive it to be.
It is.
Like the gentler the blow, the more the bubbles flow.
And other analogs that bubbles present, well, it's a poet's analogy for sure. The evanescence, but also the ephemeral part. And yet, there's also the concrete. That's wonderful because we go from concrete detail to a larger perspective. It's always the pattern of details, senses, the five senses packed into the first few lines and then beyond, and then it rises to a universal meaning. I try to do that. I don't always.
I do not always succeed either, but I'm learning. And I think this is probably why we have such an affection for the sonnet also.
Oh, good.
Because it is that way of packing in to open things up.
Yeah.
Right? So there's the surprise of what you can discover when you actually seek to constrain. Juxtaposition.
Brilliantly explained. That's so true. And I feel it viscerally because the compression, you know, a la Emily Dickinson. Oh, gosh. So.
Can anyone touch her?
No.
No.
But you are the mistress of the sonnet. No question about it. And let's give a little background without too much explanation, certainly with, oh, what's a sonnet? I'm working with a crowd in Old Saybrook at the Tuesday afternoons.
Yeah.
Just came from there, all wired up and excited. Sonnet's 14 lines. Oh, but they stand alone. Oh, but there's variations. Oh,
yes.
Oh, but there's 13-line sonnets.
And 15-line sonnets.
Oh.
And I've even seen one 18 lines.
Wow.
That I call the fat sonnet.
The fat sonnet.
And there's also fractured sonnets.
Oh.
I have something called the fractured sonnet. Lizzie Borden.
Oh, God,
With
do
her
I love the
hatchet?
Lizzie Borden poem.
So
Hatchets, hatchets,
it's
hatchets.
28 lines, but it creates the sonnet within because you hatcheted the line.
Yeah.
The 14 lines became 28, but retained the sonnet scheme. So you've got the sonnet plus
Brilliant.
fractured sonnet.
And wow, can you cover the waterfront with topics?
I like to move, Frank.
Knowledgeably
I like to move.
and powerfully. I'm ready for some sonnets.
All right. Should we start with the Lizzie Borden?
Oh, I'd
Should
love
we?
it.
That's a little.
Oh, but
That's a little out there, but let's do it since we mentioned it.
yeah, because we've mentioned
Okay.
it and we're going to go from there.
We'll go. We're going to travel to many places, but no better place to start than
I would love that's.
Fall River, Massachusetts,
Thank you.
August 1892. So this is called All the Hatchets.
All the hatchets.
Borden residence, Fall River, Massachusetts, August 1892. And as I said, I really do call this a fractured sonnet. It's 28 lines, but we've got the 14-line scheme in
I
it.
love that.
And you'll hear it, and it's actually a Petrarchian sonnet. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Great. Oh,
talk
I
about
love
that.
them.
Yeah.
And as opposed to the Shakespearean.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll cycle back to
We'll
that.
cycle back.
So just listen or don't listen for the rhyme.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing about sonnets too. I try to disguise the sonnet as much as possible, hence fractured sonnet. You wouldn't be like, oh, that's a sonnet, looking at it on the page. You wouldn't think that's a sonnet.
Wow.
But then, okay, here we go. All the hatchets. The police, after I summoned for help, appeared to walk with me for a break in the case. In my parlor, they apologetically hounded and hounded me with insinuations masked as questions before the wounds on my father's face had time to cake dry. We all made mistakes that blistering August day. I remained a woman alone because no one saw me awake with a man. They believed in all the hatchets they'd found dismembered in my basement. Evidence resounding that I took the blade to flesh multiple times, downstairs and up. I could not debate their suppositions any more than my deflated muscles could release their powers to a blunt instrument. I ask what you might have accomplished in those implausible hours, with all the words in your mouth, a confession of gravel you wish to spit to the planked parlor floor, your creased forehead unveiling its worry in the mirror's glass. What would you do to ignite your innocence if from the couch in the other room your father's one good dead eye continued its duress?
That's a punch in the jaw at the end. That's marvelous.
Yeah.
Oh, and the music of the poem is marvelous.
Well, I think what's so interesting also about the sonnet, we think so much about that end line scheme, that end line rhyme scheme, whether it's the Shakespearean, which has an alternating rhyme pattern of A, B, or the Petrarchian, otherwise known as the Italian sonnet, which has what we call an envelope with A, B, B, A. And that continues throughout the rest of the poem. And we think so much about that end line rhyme, but what I think is really fascinating is how you can work so much to play off that with internal rhyme inside of each line as well. So you want to pick up the music all throughout, whether or not you're using what Shakespeare did, which was called iambic pentameter. It had a stressed, unstressed, very much a heartbeat pattern to it. Contemporary poets like myself, very, very rarely struggle with the iambic, but still pay attention to what is the music that you're going for? What's the sound?
Yes, how wonderful you explain the strategies, which mean a lot to me, because that is invitational to anyone out there, and hopefully there are a few out there.
Well, one of the things that, how I really got interested in the sonnet was I was never really interested in form. It was in college, and I got sort of forced into looking at form. And once I realized that form, we were talking off camera before the program started about liberation television. I believe that form actually liberates what our normal patterns are within our own writing. So I can get very stuck within my own habits, and the sonnet for me is like this fabulous box I jump into and ask myself, how am I going to get out? It's a bit Houdini-esque. And I really like Houdini, as you know.
I could
see.
Yeah.
And so once I started to play with the sonnet form, I ended up teaching some workshops. And one of the workshops I love, love, love to teach is called the Collective Sonnet Workshop, where a group of us get together, we discuss what are the properties of a sonnet, like we're talking about right now, the difference between the Shakespeare sonnet, the Petrarchian sonnet, the features of it, the 14 lines, the end-line rhyme schemes. Well, we haven't talked about the rhyming couplets yet, but there's a rhyming couplet in the Shakespearean, the voltas, all the turns. And we collectively create the words for the end line rhyme scheme. Collectively.
That's stunning.
And then we all scatter like mice.
Yeah.
And write our sonnets and come back together and see what we created, and the diversity of what we will have created, even though we changed, even though we collectively chose all those 14 lines together. They become so individualized because each of us has a different box we're trying to jump in and out of.
I love that metaphor, that image of a box. And I wonder, since, as you explained, the teaching of a sonnet and the sharing of it, when in the modern world the closed form started to loosen up. I mean, this is modernism, right? It goes back to maybe 19th century. Free verse has been around, right?
Yes, for decades and decades. And
open,
really generations now. Generations now.
Open form.
Absolutely.
And I love the way you described the motivation of working with sonnets. I don't imagine that's their first choice, a poet just coming up and coming, so to speak, and in the trade would choose a sonnet. I also have been reading all of Edna St. Vincent Millay's love sonnets.
They're so beautiful.
And
stunning.
And 200 plus, and I'm just overwhelmed with these love sonnets that she goes on and on with, and creates such innovative ways of expressing the same thing.
Yes, right? Yeah, the diversity of how she is able, through so many of those sonnets, to really cast love's line so many different ways. Cast love's line so many different ways. She is, she's a virtuoso of the form, I think, of course.
Got it. Thank you.
Neruda is another, I would say, absolutely. And these are folks who were trying to stick true still to the formal aspects of it.
Yep.
But what's so fun in contemporary times, I think, is to break out of the form. And I mean, really, as I said, almost like Houdini-esque, or another way I think about it is disguising the form, really being a master of disguise.
Nice.
So that we don't see that it's a sonnet on the page unless we telegraph it. And there's even people who will telegraph it as a sonnet, and then you have to look at it. I mean, I have this one poem. It's one of the most beautiful love poems ever written by this poet, Bill Knott. And he
K-N-O-T-T?
K-N-O-T-T.
Got it, yeah.
And that's going to actually play. Remember that his name is Knott as we're listening to the poem.
Oh, okay.
And I'll say a little bit more about the sonnet after I've read it, but this is called Sonnet. The way the world is not astonished at you. It doesn't blink a leaf when we step from the house, leads me to think that beauty is natural, unremarkable, and not to be spoken of except in the course of things. The course of singing and work sharing, the course of squeezes and neighbors, the course of you tying back your raving hair to go out, and the course, of me, astonished at you, the way the world is not.
Oh, not.
Not, right?
Oh, wonderful.
Now, this is because you all are not seeing it on the page the way I am, and even the way that you are, Frank. This is actually a 13-line sonnet.
Oh.
The lines are very short, and there is no end-line rhyme scheme either.
No.
There is no rhyming couplet. There are none of the elements that we would typically associate with the sonnet. And yet, I think it is the quintessential love poem. And to that degree, Bill Knott found it absolutely essential to call it simply sonnet and let the reader live with those consequences of the title.
Oh, that's a great choice. Thank you. And I had heard his name once. I'm thrilled, and I'm perseverating on 14 lines. I mean, it's something that I've been buried into with Shakespeare's sonnets for the last 3 months, because to stave off mild cognitive impairment and aphasia and some of the things that become obvious on the show, like, oh, senior moment, oh, wait a minute, what was that word? And, I'm memorizing a Shakespearean sonnet.
You told me that you've done this. Is amazing.
Taken weeks. But it's 14, and it's like, okay, but then there's, and of course Edna St. Vincent Millay, 14. Everything's 14 except contemporary. Here we go. Liberation, the Liberation Sonnet.
The Liberation Sonnet. And, however, another contemporary poet that I really want to bring attention to for our beautiful sonnet audience today is the poet Terence Hayes. And I don't know if you're familiar with his book called American Sonnets for My Past and Future Assassin. It was published in 2018. It's an award-winning collection.
Wow.
And the entire book creates what's called a crown of sonnets. So by the end, it cycles back on itself.
That's what a sonnet sequence is?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Right. So he will take the last line.
Oh.
And it becomes the first line of the next. So it's a linked sequence
of
sonnets. And his entire book is that. But he stays true to the 14 lines.
Wow.
Even though everything else about his sonnets is completely radicalizing the form. He says, I'm going to stick to the 14. Every song, every sonnet, every song is titled American Sonnet for My Past and Future Assassin. So this is one of those called, and we'll just take the first line as the subtitle to the poem, I lock you in an American sonnet that is part prison.
Wow.
I lock you in an American sonnet that is part prison, part panic closet, a little room in a house set aflame. I lock you in a form that is part music box, part meat grinder, to separate the song of the bird from the bone. I lock your persona in a dream-inducing sleeper hold while your better selves watch from the bleachers. I make you both Jim and Crow here. As the Crow, you undergo a beautiful catharsis trapped one night in the shadows of the Jim. As the Jim, the feel of Crow shit dropping to your floors is not unlike the stars falling from the pep rally posters on your walls. I make you a box of darkness with a bird in its heart. Voltas of acoustics, instinct, and metaphor. It is not enough to love you. It is not enough to want you destroyed. So then the next poem would begin something to the effect of, to love you, it is not enough to want you destroyed. I mean, what I love about this sonnet, and so many sonnets themselves in the contemporary realm, are also drawing attention to the sonnet itself and how they are trying to break away from its own trappings. You know, so the sonnet is a metaphor, as he says, I lock you in an American sonnet that is part prison. So it is self-referential to the sonnet all throughout, and yet it is laden with all kinds of other metaphor and meanings, in addition to what is the property of the sonnet. You know, and I love, it is not enough to love you, sonnet. It is not enough to want you destroyed. Two things can be true at the same time. And in fact, many things are true at the same time in this poem.
Quite an accomplishment, huh?
And a whole book of this kind of accomplishment, right? So when you say, oh, I'm really sticking with those 14 lines, that you are very focused on the 14 lines. The 14 lines is its own way to focus. But also, again, how does it help you liberate yourself from your own voice at the same time? I mean, again, we talked a little bit about this off camera. I like to use the sonnet when I want to play.
Absolutely.
Because I can get all caught up in my own free verse.
It's play, it's play, it's play.
It's a lot of play, a lot of play.
Oh, so we are at the half point.
How did that happen?
That's right. It always happens that way, Sandra. So we'll take a 3-minute break. We can take a deep breath.
Blow some more bubbles, maybe.
We can blow some more bubbles to get our breath back.
Right.
We can dance, whatever. So thank you, Emily. We're delighted to have the advantage of a 3-minute break. And also, the service announcements are always the very best. And we're part of the social fabric that says we care.
There's nothing more important than a good PSA.
Even better.
Shoppers depend on customer reviews to make the right decisions, but as sellers continually find new ways to craft fake reviews and hire thousands of people to post them, getting rid of every fake review quickly is nearly impossible. Look out for generic reviewer profiles. If a reviewer has a very common or generic name, you've spotted a red flag. Read reviews by customers with verified purchases, meaning the reviewer bought the product on the same site where they wrote the review. Examine the quality and timing of product reviews. If you notice a product has several 5-star or 1-star reviews with just a word or two in the written portion of the review, or if the reviews use language that is generic, studded with irrelevant details, or overly enthusiastic, you may be looking at a fake review. This is especially true if you notice multiple similar reviews posted during a short window of time. The rise of generative AI has made it much easier to post fake reviews and harder for customers to spot them. So it's a good idea to check multiple websites and compare reviews of an item or service. If you spot a scam, report it to BBB Scam Tracker. That's bbb.org/scam tracker.
It's bubble time. Aren't you glad you didn't leave for another beer? Oh, come on.
There goes the breath.
I'm missing my grandson right now. This is what I usually do with him.
You are. Dear Lori, thank you for joining us, because you have the grandparents' love and heart and soul. And yeah, I can understand how beautiful that relationship is.
Yeah.
I'm a one bubble man.
That's
Well,
roll of the breath.
we are back. Thank you for keeping on with us. We're going to loosen up a little the sonnet form some more from 14 lines. But let's go back to the note on Lizzie Borden. I love that you added a whole section of notes. Never thought of that myself. Wish I had. And my poetry is just sort of floating out there. It needs an anchor. You know, that note at the back of the book, not accumulated at the end of a poem, no. At the back of the book, which you so strategically put beautifully, because the notes really are open doors. So when you go to the library or buy one of Sandy's poetry books, always go to the back first. And I always read a book backwards.
Do you? That's great. I'm not sure where I picked up this habit of writing the notes. I'm not the only person who does it, and it's becoming more, I won't say standard practice yet,
Yeah.
but I'm seeing it more and more. And I certainly had done it with my first book, Boats for Women. There was a lot of history in the book, and I wanted to provide some of the historical underpinnings, particularly surrounding the Titanic disaster and things of that nature.
I loved that. I truly loved it. I could get into it, the details. And you have such richness to share with the history.
I love history, and I learned about the necessity, I think, of history in a collection. I was reading this poet, Suzanne Gardinier. She teaches at Sarah Lawrence College. Maybe it's university. I hope. I'm sorry, Sarah Lawrence. You are a fabulous institution. If I am getting your moniker incorrect, Sarah Lawrence in the Hudson Valley. she teaches at Sarah Lawrence, and she wrote this book that won the AWP Intro Award, which was a very prestigious award for her first book in 1992, called The New World. All the poems, it's one, she calls it one poem, but it is in 100 poems in 5 sections. Each of the poems in each of the 5 sections has the same title. So you read it, as I say, vertically and horizontally. And it is about the history, a particular 20-mile radius in New York and the history around that. So you've got things about the blues, things about immigration. I mean, these, and her own love poems about peace. And anyway, because she used so much history to create her book, it really taught me that every book of poetry should have a historical anchor to it. My first book was largely a coming out narrative, and it had none of that. And after I read her book, I said, I need to find something to ballast it. And a book about the Titanic literally leapt off a shelf at my feet in a used bookstore in Lincoln, Nebraska, and that's how it happened.
Yeah.
And so I continue that practice, and making sure that the book, the second book, had some historical markers, some historical anchors in them. My particularly favorite period of history tends to be the populist and progressive era, about 1880 to 1920, 1930. So Lizzie Borden fits in there. What was considered the crime of the century in 1924. There's a poem in the Glass Studio about Leopold and Loeb. Yeah. So I do try to find those anchors. So the note for all the Hatchets poem that we read at the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Just says, I found inspiration for this poem from reading Kara Richardson's The Trial of Lizzie Borden, published by Simon & Schuster in 2020. The poem was written on a dare by a friend of mine, Tara Hardy, author of a poem called Lizzie Borden, in her book called Bringing Down the Chandeliers from Right Bloody Publishing, 2011. So I want to always also honor what are the lineages. Yeah. You know, where do I find the impetus to even attempt a poem, so that we all are really aware that while poems feel like, even to me, that it's coming out of thin air, when I write the note, I realize, no, it's coming from other messages that are being sent to me, from my brothers and sisters and persons in the poetry world.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I am struck, and I had shared with Lori a lot of, not everything, but a lot of your first book, Boats for Women. And am I loving that cover? Boats for Women. What a great title. What does that make you think of first?
It conjures up so many images, boats, your references to New England in general, always revolve around the sea. You bring elements of the sea, as well as history. But boats, they mean many things. Boats are, lifeboats.
Lifeboats, first thing I think of.
Lifeboats, that was the first image that came. Yeah. Boats for women. They're objects of saving, of perseverance. Rowboats, get in the boat and row. It takes energy, perseverance, a little sweat, hard work.
And we're in the same boat together.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So useful.
Yeah.
Now, with the fleshing out completely of the Titanic metaphor throughout this whole book.
And it even seeps into the Glass Studio.
It does seep into the Glass Studio. I was following it because, as I shared with you, I had a traumatic dream that was a recurrent traumatic dream from childhood, which lasted 45 years until I got the help I needed with expunging that dream, but not really, just sort of embracing it and letting it go. But I was alone on the Titanic in the middle of the sea, and we were about to hit that's terrorizing as a dream, because you're living it. And that was real for me in the dream for so many years. And that began to make sense after a lot of therapy. Began to put the connections together. Imagine, wow, what a dream. And the image, it's indelible. It's just, I mean, it's the one tragedy we think about when we think metaphorically, even like the world could be the Titanic at this point, which is about to hit the iceberg, and so on. I mean, it's such a serviceable image and metaphor, and you squeezed it for all that seawater out of it. Oh,
I had no idea that it was going to be the metaphor that keeps giving.
Yeah.
And that it's one of my favorite words when I think about poetry is the word prismatic. It's such a prismatic metaphor. It just completely continues to cast, different panes of light wherever it goes. And I love that you referenced the cover, because the cover, what I love about the cover, and I have to give credit to the book designer at Salmon Poetry, where I publish out in County Clare, Ireland, is where I'm so fortunate to publish my collections. Notice on the cover that there are no boats and there are no women.
Right.
So it does beg the question, where are the boats? Where are the women? And I guess that means you have to open the book and start to find that out. The other thing that I'll share is that it is a historical reference to the suffragists. And that slant rhyme on votes to boats.
Oh,
and
nice.
Where that came from was a political cartoon that I saw. I do a lot of research when I'm doing if I'm using a historical metaphor. So I've read far too many books about the Titanic than we could take up the whole program just talking about that.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously. But I saw this political cartoon from right after the disaster with a suffragist standing up stridently in a lifeboat. Of course, the maritime law at the time of the sinking was women and children first. And yet, simultaneously, women were seeking the vote.
Yeah.
So a cartoonist used that satire and had to comment on that disparity, or that, what do I want to call that? That juxtaposition of that call and the other call. To have a suffragist standing up in the boat. It's just a lifeboat, one lifeboat with Titanic on the bow. She's standing up, she's got her hat. The hats were very famous back then.
Yeah.
And she's got her very iconic sash.
Yeah.
They used to, of course, parade with those sashes that said votes for women.
Yes.
But this one in the cartoon said boats for women, and that's where I got the title.
Wow.
And once I found that cartoon, I have not been able to find it again. I didn't take a picture of it. This was in the mid 90s, so there were no cell phones. And I didn't do my due diligence of research by making sure I knew where that reference came from. And I have asked librarian after librarian to try to help me find this image, because I'm not that clever to make that image up, right?
Yeah.
And no one can find that political cartoon.
Oh.
So if any of you out there can find this political cartoon for me, I would name all my future books after you, or something like that. I mean,
Something like that.
something like that. If you can help me find the origins of that political cartoon with that
But you
suffragist.
described it so.
She did, and I don't even think if you never found that cartoon, it was a point of inspiration that you were aware enough to grasp and send it forward and give it life. So it took the life form in another way.
And what a twist. I would suggest you are a master of irony, which is, I'd say, very contemporary and very modernist from the modern movement, which began early 20th century. Irony, yes. Oh, absolutely. And it's embedded in so many of your lines. And I love that. I thought, wow, what a device to continue to use in so many different modern contemporary situations, and so many twists and turns in the unexpected lives of people. By the way, Prism, yes, the Prism does a good job, and that's the second book. And I love your poem about the irony, speaking of irony of ironies, the captain.
Oh.
Could you read the captain's response, or the captain's, do you have it?
Is it in Providence?
No, it's the final crossing
I
Yeah.
don't have
of Captain
that one.
Edward J. Smith. Here it is.
Okay. His voice had never fallen hoarse. His whole career, until on board tonight, he regrets. For a waterlogged moment, the crystal stems, the 5-course meal, the toasting of names, the headlines we'll never forget. His first-class guests, now merely occupants of the same fate as all the others. A monsoon of panic overtakes the glassy calm. Chants of women and children first swoon through the Atlantic chill. How to captain when riven with everything unsinkable sinking between. Not enough time and too few lifeboats. He cuts the ribbon between himself and April 14th. Now, 2+ hours into April 15th, death hovers an instant away. He resigns to a final breath.
Oh,
Wow.
and the note at the back of the book? Ooh.
What does the note say? Where's the place?
There it is.
Okay. In the grandest of ironies.
Oh, bingo, blasto, you got it.
Do I read the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. Captain Edward J. Smith was set to retire from the maritime service after the RMS Titanic's maiden voyage in April 1912. Titanic's macaroni wireless operators, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, were some of the first telegraph operators to use the new international distress call, SOS. In addition to CQD, with the new telegraphic technology that enabled relatively instant ship-to-shore communications. For a fascinating read about the impacts of Marconi's wireless on the concept of time, read Stephen Kern's The Culture of Time and Space, 1880 to 1918, Harvard University Press.
Ma'am, you do your homework.
She does.
It's fabulous. And it gets such good anchors, but you have zeroed in on the irony of the situation, you know, and everything from unsinkable to, you know, it's got a twist of irony. And women and children first. They didn't do that. they blocked the lower classes off, and they let, oh God,
was the
and
Yeah.
the 5-course
And
meal
one
and
of the other
oh.
things about that night, again, you get me going, I'll,
I don't want to re-traumatize myself either.
yeah. But I'll just, what I really try to do with anything historical.
It's a fascinating
You
topic.
know, everybody knows the story of Titanic,
Yeah.
right? So how do you write a poem that shares something that expands the story or makes it feel a little fresh or
Yeah.
a little more haunting
Yeah.
or a little more transcendent
Yes.
than what we already hold in our collective memory about it. So I usually look for little quirky details, and then I will really hang my hat on the detail
Beautiful.
to open up the poem.
And that's the traditional movement, right? From
Yeah.
the fleshy details into the universal application. You're on a roll. So can you read some more that you read and paid attention to?
Well, I did, and this one, Providence,
Yeah.
mentions the Titanic as well.
Good.
And there's yet a whole other facet of what the Titanic, what that message really means and that imagery really means. Providence, April 14th, 1998.
Yeah.
When I call my parents to wish their marriage continued success, hear the Connecticut shore breaking in the background, I am thinking also of the ship, hoping that maybe on this April 14th, the Titanic doesn't hit. The iceberg that Captain Smith for once heeds, the warnings of ice, and doesn't give in to speed that looks out, that the lookouts have binoculars, that the Californian doesn't put its radio to sleep.
Yeah.
10 minutes before the first distress call. But my mother isn't thinking about her anniversary or the iceberg when I call. She is thinking about Providence. When she says she has something she wants to ask me, thinking about Providence before and after I hang up. The Providence of last summer's love now ringing in my ears, and all that week before spent convincing my mother that she was just a friend. But I was nervous at dinner. I couldn't eat. On the drive to Providence, I grew tired and had to stop. At the scenic overlook in Mystic, where in the dark, I could just make out the shadows of the historic ships pressed against the night. In Providence, her plane was the last to land, and late, pulling into its gate like the Carpathia arrived in New York, alone and anticipated. I sat in the airport with my head in my hands, afraid of whomever might not deplane. But when I looked up, she stood before me with her luggage in hand. And in the middle of the terminal, we held each other as survivors of what we did not yet know. That's heavy.
Oh, and you do a brilliant job with family in this book.
Yeah.
And all through.
Titanic is such a clear image, this cataclysmic event that shatters everything.
Everything. From
And
the
yet
crystal.
you're waiting for your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, that's been in some ways one of the most haunting things is to know that my parents' wedding anniversary is the anniversary of the Titanic disaster. So it is forever coming up every single year. It's it's a date that is so rooted in my family's history. Obviously, I wouldn't be here but for that date, and yet it also holds such historical significance in terms of this metaphor that I have. That's become like family to me. The metaphor.
The metaphor.
The metaphor is my family in a lot of ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's dynamite. And also the little details which you pay delicate attention to, like, who was asleep at the earphones when they should have been hearing the essay was? Who was not at his post doing this, that, and the other? And who is this captain who's hell-bent on breaking a record, which is his last voyage across? And all those things together, it's traumatic, you know, and even in our imagination and in our consciousness, it is the traumatic event of the 20th century.
It truly, truly is.
It's amazing how the power of that.
The little choices in that story, the
Yes.
little choices along the way had a tremendous cataclysmic conclusion
Oh,
by just the small choices.
incrementally.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that is true of so many of our lives, isn't it?
is.
Actually, every single one of us has that version of that story somewhere in our life.
beautiful.
Where,
That's the bedrock of your poetry there.
you know,
Yes.
where that's, it's the split second.
Oh, yeah.
It's the split second before and after the disaster. You know, which it's that second that forever creates the schism. Because without that intervening second, there is no before and after.
Yeah.
And that is what's so. Now we come back to the sonnet and talk about the volta. The word volta is simply a fancy Italian. Well, it's not fancy Italian. It's the Italian word for turn. It comes back to the idea of the turn. Without that split second moment of disaster, you have no before and after. There is no schism in time. But that turn creates before and after, and the consequences. And I feel like consequences and like excuses, consequences, reasons, searchings, longings, that's the stuff of poetry. So always seeking in every poem, what is the turn? Because the turn is what's going to get us to the true anchor of human emotion in any poem is going to be that volta, is going to be
Beautiful.
that turn.
Well said. Just gorgeous in truth. And that's poetry for us, right? It's soulful matter and soulful stuff. And we have 2 minutes.
Amazing.
Oh, it is. Please come back, because we have just begun in so many ways.
I'd be thrilled, I'd be honored, and
We are
I've
honored
had such
because-
a wonderful afternoon. Thank you both. It's amazing also to hear someone read.
Exactly.
your
I
poems.
knew you would appreciate it so deeply.
Absolutely.
I do too
they're
myself. Yeah, absolutely. That time of year thou mayest in me behold, when yellow leaves, or none, or few, do hang upon those boughs which shake against the cold. Bare ruined choirs where late the sweet birds sang. In me thou seest the twilight of such day as after sunset fadeth in the west, which by and by black night doth take away. Death's second self, which seals up all in rest. In me thou seest the glowing of such fire that on the ashes of his youth doth lie, as the deathbed upon which it must expire, consumed with that it was nourished by. In me thou perceivest this which makes thy love more strong, to love that well which thou must leave ere long. He's aging, the speaker. It is a wrap, and Shakespeare does it for me. Not only helping my cognitive impairment.
I'm impressed. Yes. I am impressed.
It took 2 weeks.
Wow.
But I am so deeply into that narrative, because each Each one stands alone in its own merits,
Yes.
in its own meaning. It's contained. It's a room. But if you take the arc of the narrative, whoa, we have a couple of hot stories going here. First of all, the beautiful youth, which he's enamored of, the speaker, and then the dark lady comes in, or Sonnet 126. And then there's a threesome. Oh no! That's the arc. It's the strangest thing. And each sonnet stands alone in its deep feeling. He does it for me.
It's extraordinary.
He
Really,
does
the
it.
turns are extraordinary.
They are.
They truly, truly are.
And it's so rich in its imagery. But, that time of year, it's fall. Hey, celebrate fall! We started coming in talking about change of season too. So, it is a wrap. Oh, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you,
having
Lori.
us.
Thank you so
Oh,
much, Frank.
Yeah,
a pleasure.
it's so visceral. It's bringing tears. It's so good. That's how good poetry can be.
Indeed.
Indeed. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
Just a wonderful experience. And you have imparted a lot of knowledge. And our hungry audience will definitely eat it up.
Thanks all.
Till next time.
Till next time.
If I'm gone tomorrow and you hear this song today, just remember there is love for you in every note I play. There's an echo in the canyon, a reflection on the sound